46. Murphy's offers some products and services that you may not know about. They now sell ammunition, both bullets and shells. Murphy's also sells personalized tags for dog collars. They build customized screens for windows and doors. Murphy's can rekey locks, and of course they can make keys. They cut glass for windows, plus Murphy's has monthly door buster specials. Check their Facebook page to see what's on sale. Murphy's Builder Supply, 156 Northeast Broad Street, Jessup.
For the best car wash at the best price, then go to the new Nips Car Wash, located at 459 Highway 301 South, down from McDonald's in Jessup. Nips Car Wash features state-of-the-art IQ automatic car wash system. Every car or truck that enters the automatic IQ wash system is scanned to capture its unique vehicle profile to give you a great car wash every time. Nips Car Wash also features 2 self-service bays where you can choose from a variety of accessories such as foam brush, tire brush, bug off, wax, clear coat, and spot-free rinse with powerful blowers located in each bay to top off your car wash experience at an affordable price. For the best quality car wash around, go to the new Nips Car Wash, located down from McDonald's on the left on Highway 301 South in Jessup. That's Nips Car Wash with a state-of-the-art IQ automatic wash system on Highway 301 South down from McDonald's in Jessup.
Enjoy a meal with Jessup's best place to get made-to-order burritos, tacos, nachos, quesadillas, salads, and bowls. Sorchero's Fresh Mex. There are endless ways you can create your version of the friendly Tex-Mex fresh every day. Hosting a party, family event, or gathering, we can help with the food. From party planners to full-service catering, Sorchero's Fresh Mex can provide options to make your guests happy. Call today for details, 912-559-0488, 559-0488. Sorchero's Fresh Mex, 480 West Cherry Street in the Piggly Wiggly Shopping Center, Jessup. 8:04 on this Thursday morning. It is the 29th day of August. World-famous Butch and Bob Show on the Big Dog. Brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, Nips Car Wash, and Sorchero Fresh Mex. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Jonathan. We are glad to have as our special guest one of our county commissioners, Kevin McCreary's in the studios with us. Kevin, going to start first of all with the millage rate set yesterday. Full disclosure, we taped the coach show on Wednesday, so I wasn't able to get to the meeting, but did get the report that they kept the millage the same as they did last year. They raised it 5 mils from 12.923 to 17.923. You and Commissioner Hickox wanted to see possibly roll it back 1 mil, but the vote 3-2 to keep it the same. Just want to get your thoughts on the millage rate and why do you think they couldn't roll back 1 mil?
Well, taxpayers need some relief. Taxes are very high right now. I felt like we could roll back a mill. We have several. We have litigations. We have FLIPA, which is a money we get every year. They're saying that it's going down. I did call up to several people and talk to them in the state, and they did not know anything about it going away completely. I don't think it is going away. It may decrease in the amount of money. They did say Wayne County gets more than a lot of counties around us. Commissioner Griffith said yesterday that it was going down $80,000. We have some litigation. She said approximately $1.2 million. But we do have the buildings that we had to finish this year. That was over $500,000 right there. I just don't think we can justify keeping the millage rate where it's at. When we go up the taxes 5 mills, we said we had $8 million that we had to pay back. We did not pay it back last year. Mr. Jefford said that we didn't have any money. Well, when you get the money in, it comes in at the end of the year. I feel like we owe the taxpayers our due diligence of doing what we say we're going to do, which I was not in office at that time, but no money was paid back last year. We're going to pay it back a portion this year. The $4.7 million that was said that we borrowed from T-Splost is going to be paid back at $200,000 a year. $200,000 a year, anybody can do the math for 4.7 million. It's over 20 years we'll be paying on that. Certainly we're not expecting to keep the 5 mills for that long to pay $200,000. The 5 mills last year generated $3.5 million. That's extra money that we have to pay bills or do whatever we need to do to help this county out. I feel like that this year we're paying back $700,000, which $500,000 is the GO bond, which is the hospital bond, and $200,000 is for the T-Splosh money that we borrowed. I feel like that we could go down a mill. It just takes a little bit longer to get to where you want to be, and I understand their thought process. We don't want to be in the hole all our, forever. We do want to come out of it, but I felt like when I made the suggestion that we do controlled spending, I believe when Mr. Deal was in office is when the ordinance was written for the county administrator to be held accountable so that he could not spend over $10,000. And to my knowledge, in the last, I don't know how long, that's the only time we have been where we had an actual surplus. And I've heard $3 million and I've heard $5 million. I don't know that. I did not really go into it and look at the books that far back. But I just felt like that was something that we needed to do. If you don't control spending, you can get all the tax money you want, and we're still not going to be able to get our head above water where we can actually stay comfortably. And if we have a problem, an emergency or anything like that in the county, where we can take care of it without having the financial burden of it and worrying. A lot of times when you don't have the money, you don't do things the way you should and as thorough as you should. And if we had the money and had a surplus, we would be able to do that. And I realize that's what they want, but you cut spending and you're able to decrease taxes. That way it takes a little bit longer to get to that point, but I really feel like that we're headed in the right direction, but I don't feel like the burden should be all on the taxpayers.
And if you just joined us, Kevin McCrary, County Commissioner, in the studios with us. Let's get to this letter. Last time you appeared on the show, I asked you point blank, did you know anything about an investigation going on in the county administrator's office at the time? You said you didn't know anything about it. I talked to you yesterday. You said you just got caught off guard. You misspoke that you knew about it because the letter came to your residence.
That's right. And I did. I went back and listened to it not 5 minutes ago, the meeting. And I told you several times, that I couldn't talk about it. Yeah, you did pin me down and everything, but had I told you that I did know, that would have let the cat out of the bag. I don't know if you've ever been to prison, but I haven't, and I don't want to go. Don't know what the charges would be, but I know when I spoke with Jackie Johnson, they said don't say anything about it. You're not to release any information. And I didn't want to do that because I didn't want anything that I said or did to impede the investigation. I heard you say this morning that it was a waste of taxpayers' dollars. I don't feel like that. I'm sure if you hear something, you go and investigate it. Sometimes it leads to a dead end. I didn't want to make that decision myself whether this was a dead end or not. That's why I pursued talking to Jackie Johnson to find out what they could make the decision. I let them make the decision whether it needed to be pursued further. You have allegations like this. I don't know who sent the letter. I was at church camp. My wife called me and told me I need to read you a letter. She read the letter to me, and it had some instructions on the letter saying what we needed to do specifically. So I did go through those routes the way they wanted me to go through them, talk to those people, and then they led me in the direction that they felt like that I needed to go to get it taken care of and let somebody else make the decision whether it needed to be investigated or dropped. I just don't feel right sweeping things under the rug if I know something that the could definitely be affecting the county. I'm not saying that those allegations are true, and I never have. I didn't do the investigation. I looked at it. I made a cognitive decision on what I needed to do, and I felt like I did the right thing. And Jackie Johnson and them did everything they could to try to find out any information on it. I don't know who the anonymous sender was, as we talked about earlier. You know, if you know something, I wish you would come forward, because you're just as much a part of the problem if you don't bring that information forward to help out the county. I mean, we're in dire straits, and I would like to get things on a better track than what they are now. We've been running this way for years. Everybody I've talked to can't remember when we did not have a TAN, tax anticipated note, for the year. We work off of last year's money, and it is sad. It's sad that we can't get this government in shape to where we can run on the money that we're getting now and that we have.
Let me ask you, I got so many questions. First question I want to ask, like I said, I get letters all the time, and I get the same thing. They don't sign their name. They don't put a return address. To me, it goes in file 13, because I don't carry no weight. If you're not going to sign your name and tell me who you are, asking all these questions or making all these accusations, I don't give it any weight. Obviously, you gave this weight. So the question, first of all, why did you give it weight with no signature, not knowing who it is?
Well, I am a new commissioner. I can assure you I have never received a letter like this before. When it came in, you know, it's a shocker when somebody sends you a letter with that much information on it and that detailed of information. I know you read it this morning. I've read it thousands of times. It just seemed like, to me, I didn't know what to do with it. You know, file 13, that's an option. It sure is. But I felt like, as a commissioner, somebody bringing that information in, I needed to give it to somebody else with more knowledge. Maybe I should have brought it to you, Bob, and let you put it in file 13.
Let me ask you another question. The question I can't understand is, they recommend that you bypass the sheriff. I don't understand, why would you like I said on my newscast, if you're a county employee and you say you see illegal activity going on in a county office, the logical choice to me is you go to the sheriff, John Carter. Why did they want to avoid John Carter?
I don't know who sent the letter. I don't know.
I know, but you took it upon yourself to do what they said in the letter, to bypass the sheriff, right? You didn't took it to the sheriff. I mean, the GBI wound up in the sheriff's office doing the investigation, but you apparently took it to the police department instead of the sheriff, right?
That's right.
Right.
You're exactly right.
So my question is, why
because it said don't take it to the sheriff, take it to the local police department.
So you just believe this anonymous person to,
Well,
so who did you think, where did you think, the county, or I'm sorry, the district attorney, in their press release, they state is purported to come from within the county office. So did you just assume, like they did, that it came from somebody within the county office? That's what you believe?
Well, with the information there and some of the specifics in it, saying how many bags of trash and some of the things, it certainly sounds to me that it came from within the office.
Well, the people, like I said, I mean, it's not hard to eliminate I mean, there's not 4 ladies working in the office, right? There's Ed, and there's 4 ladies. There's Amanda, right, the county clerk. There's Angie Parker. There's two other girls, right?
That's right.
So, you've been a county commissioner now, what, almost how many years?
8 months.
8 months?
Yes.
And all those girls in the office,
I
right?
do. Mm-hmm.
So why not just go to those girls and say, who wrote the letter? I mean, say, and like I said, the more I dig into it, the more I look at it, it appears to me that this is all a smokescreen and it didn't come from anybody within the office. That's what I'm starting to believe.
Right.
I think talking to the people I've talked to, investigating as much as I've talked to, looking at the whole picture, bypassing the sheriff, it just seems to me like somebody sent you this letter and they've got it all this going on, a GBI, full-fledged investigation, weeks of investigation, hours of manpower that could be used somewhere else. That's why I thought it was a waste of taxpayers' money, because it came up empty. So it just seems to me like, studying it and looking at it, I'm starting to believe that this came from somebody outside the office, making it appear that somebody in the office wrote it. But there are some details here that are kind of, I mean, do you have any evidence of anybody shredding any documents? Have you heard of anybody shredding documents?
I don't. Let me answer your first question. I didn't want to. I went by the letter. I have never received a letter like this before. Far as talking to the girls in the office, I didn't feel like I don't want to I don't want anybody to get in trouble over this, especially with an anonymous letter and things like that. That's why I went. You can read it 1,000 different ways, and well, you should have gone to the sheriff. Well, you can read into it what you want. I did what I felt like I needed to do, and I did what the letter said. Maybe they do know why I shouldn't take it to the sheriff, but you have to find out.
That's what I'm trying to get to. I mean, I'm just trying to get where you're coming from. To me, looking at what you did and the action you took, to me, I feel that you feel that there was credibility in this letter, and you took the letter seriously, thinking that these allegations were somewhat true. So that's what I'm asking. When you read this letter, and you say, "Oh yeah, this rings true to me," there needs to be an investigation, or did you just? Like I told you before, I get letters all the time. Nobody signs it, so I just don't give any credibility. I tell people all the time, if you're not going to sign your name to it, and it's like those letters, if you're not going to sign your name to it, I don't give it any credence at all.
That's right.
If you're going to own it, own it. And
I read it, and some of the specifics in the letter just sounded like that it had to come from somebody in the office.
All right.
The part about Ed saying that I drew first blood, I understand that. It was not, what I did was not against any one person. It's against the way the government is run. They've told me for 30 years we've been running it this way. He may have said that, that I drew first blood. Well, I wasn't doing it to draw blood.
What did you take from that statement? Explain that to the listening audience. I don't understand what that meant. I read that Ed Jeffers says he drew first blood. Somebody said afterward, but it was not heard clearly. What did you take from that? I'm confused. I don't know what they mean by that.
When I made the statement about we need to start following ordinances, and we're not following ordinances. The ordinance I'm talking about is the ordinance that he helped write. When he was a commissioner, it went down to.
Okay, so they're referring to the county commission meeting that took place where all that was discussed.
That's right.
Okay, so that's what that meant. So
yeah.
So they're just assuming that you drew first blood by making that statement that we need to follow the ordinance that was written.
That's true statement.
Right, and I've said that many times. What's funny about that ordinance is the ordinance was put in place when Ed Jeffers was the county commissioner.
That's right.
So he didn't like the fact that the former administrator was spending more than money without the knowledge of the commissioners.
That's right.
So he put the ordinance in place. You can't spend more than $10,000 without the county commissioner's approval.
Well, that's why we have 5 commissioners.
Right, and that's the ordinance that keeps on being violated, according.
Yes.
And that's just a fact.
That's right. Well, when the auditors even proved that same fact, that
so that's what they're referring to.
to.
So it could have been somebody that just was at that meeting. And
it could have been. Right. As far as who it is, I have no clue.
And I implore whoever did write the letter, just please come forward, because it would answer a lot of questions. But like I said,
right.
the little bit, I've been doing this 35 years, investigating and reporting, just from talking to people and reading it and watching it and observing it and following it the last several weeks. I've come to the conclusion that no one from within that office wrote the letter. I think somebody outside the office wrote the letter, making it look like somebody within the office wrote the letter. I've listened to some of these interviews. I do appreciate Jackie Johnson getting the file to us as quickly as possible. Project Johnson, here's a list of, there's hours and hours and hours of interviews. It's going to take weeks to go through this, which it took the GBI weeks, but there's interviews with the county administrator, there's interviews with every girl in the office. I've listened to about 4 hours of this so far, and it's he said, she said, a lot of finger pointing, but no one claims that they wrote the letter, and no one knows who wrote the letter. That's still the big mystery, who wrote the letter. I guess the question now, the file has been closed. The DA and the GBI say no illegal activity has been proven. So everybody's asking the question, where do we go from here? Is it let it go, move forward, or your thoughts on that? Where do we get? Where does the county commission go from here? It's still a divided board. It's still a 3-2 vote. Seems like on any issue, it's you and Ralph Hickox against the other 3. We can go over that as well. When this first came up, and I've told this story on the air as well. And, I'm still trying to get Herschel Hires here and James Boot Thomas and, Ed Jeffers. But I tell people, you and Ralph Hickox went behind closed doors in executive session. This first came up in executive session. You and Ralph Hickox felt like the administrator needed to be reprimanded. You want to do it privately, put in a file where supposedly no one would know about it. Is that correct? That's the first time it came up in executive session.
Executive session is executive session. You're not supposed to know anything about that, Bob.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about anything in executive session.
Well, I've told people that you can forget about executive session because people like to talk
That's right.
and everybody
Well,
finds out.
the next morning,
all I'm saying is here's the way to me it went down. They wanted to do it privately. They got voted down. They came out publicly. They got voted down. They came back a third time and made a motion to reprimand them. That got voted down. So there was 3 strikes, you're out. That you tried it 3 times. I mean, so I'm just trying to let people know where this process goes and how this process came about. It's just not a good situation watching it from the outside.
That's right. Well,
so my question is, where do we go from here? Is there any way to get harmony? Is there any way to bring peace to the board? Is it still going to be a 3-2 no matter where we go, no matter what the issue is? Or you're on that board, you're in that minority, so where do we go from here?
I think I just have to do more of my homework. I've only been in office a few months. I'm still learning the process and things like that, and I really feel like that all the commissioners want to do what's best for Wayne County, and I think I just need to get my point across. I feel like that's why the people elect 5 commissioners, so that we can all make a decision, and the administrator administrates what we want him to do in the direction we want to go in, and that's his job. And I feel like that we should have restraints on that. They don't feel that way. Everybody's obligated, or they can have their own opinion, but the thing is, I need to have enough information to justify the way that I'm trying to get the county to go. We've been doing it this way for, 30-something years. They said that about the ordinance. They haven't followed it since it was written. Well, apparently it was when Mike Deal was there, because it was fresh and new, and the current commission don't feel like that it need to be followed. Myself and the thousands of phone calls that I get agree that it needs to be followed, so that we can actually decide and dictate where the money goes. And I feel like, we should be proud as commissioners to be able to dictate where the money goes, and at the end of the day, we will be held solely responsible for the money that was spent, the taxpayers' money that was spent, so that they can look at us and say, well, I'm glad I voted them in. I'm glad I did my due diligence by going and voting the right person in to dictate where that money goes. They're spending it wisely, and they're doing it, the way that they said they were going to do it during the election.
Let's go back to the millage rate, because to me, that's been a huge story over the past year in Wayne County. In fact, it caused such an uproar that commissioners had write-in candidates run against them. I mean, that's one reason you're sitting here as a county commissioner. That was something that just hit people like a ton of bricks. Fought against the 5 mil increase. I thought that was just crazy at one time to jump 5 mils. A lot of people felt the same way. Like I said, write-in candidates, you're elected, but here we go. They vote the other day to keep the millage the same at the 5 mil increase. So my question is, like I said, it wasn't a chance to be. You were there. Has any debt been paid with the 5 mil increase that they hit us with last year? I mean, all that money coming in, a mil right now. Last year, Denise has the figures.
716.
Yes, last year was 716,487. This year, 727,937. So, with all that money rolling in, 5 mil increase, did the county commission pay off any debt? Did they pay any of the $4.7 million from the TIA that they supposedly misspent, or was any bill paid, or what did the 5 mil increase accomplish?
What the 5 mil increase accomplished was that puts us at a later date borrowing against our TAN. The TAN is the tax anticipated note, the money that we have to borrow to survive off of, to do and perform normal procedures throughout the year to be able to make it through until we get the next year's taxes. And what that does is that gives us a little bit of a breather before we have to start borrowing that money and paying the interest on that money that we borrowed.
Okay, again, if you just joined us, County Commissioner Kevin McCreary in here. Again, I appreciate you coming in. I said I've been begging the rest of them to come in. They keep saying they're coming in, but they yet to come in. Like we say all the time, this platform is for anybody to come in and give us their thoughts and let us know, because you guys know more what's going on than we do. But like I said, we're just trying to follow it, get as much information out there as possible. But again, it took us a while to figure out who got the note. We now know you received the note. And again, you got this, you said when you came back from church camp, it was just in the mailbox. Tell us about it was just a white envelope, no return address. What did the envelope look like?
It was just a regular envelope, no return address, naturally. And it was handwritten on the envelope. And I used that. Matter of fact, the envelope was sitting beside another manila folder that I had with my name written on it, and that was part of what I used to I guess falsely determine who sent me the letter, because the signature was impeccable. Anybody that looked at it, at the two signatures side by side, said that there was no doubt who wrote it, but I'm not 100% who wrote it on my folder.
Everybody's speculating where the letter came from. Like you said, I'm speculating that I don't believe anybody from within the office wrote it. Who did you think wrote the letter when you first read it? Say, everybody has an idea who they thought.
When I first read it, I was scared to death. I've never. How many people out there have ever had an anonymous letter written to them? And, the allegations that were in there, it kind of tensed me up. I didn't know what to do, didn't know what direction to take, so I did what the letter said, and I went through it. As I just said, when I saw the signature on the front, that was really all you had, and fingerprints off of the envelope. So the GBI turned all of that over to them in a plastic bag, because I've never had any of these. So I'm like, oh, what did I do? And we put it in a Ziploc bag so they could get fingerprints off of it. I don't know if they did that or not. I don't know what they did with it. Once I turned it over to them, they said, we'll keep you posted and things like that. I called several times, and they said, it's an ongoing investigation. We can't tell you anything.
Right, but now we've been through 3 weeks of investigation. Like I said, they closed the file. We got all this information. Still, though, in Kevin McCreary's mind, who do you think wrote the letter?
I don't know.
You don't.
I
don't have any idea.
I have no clue who wrote that letter.
Do you think it's somebody within the office or outside the office?
I have. Looking at the letter with the specifics saying what, on what day, how many bags of things like that, you would assume it was in there, because right. I don't think anybody outside the office would know a lot of the information.
And the district attorney's letter states the same thing. I mean, it's purported that it came from within the office, but to me, like I said, I'm just skeptical.
That's right. Well,
I think it's a smokescreen. They made it look like it came from within the office. That's just my gut instinct.
That's right.
Well, that's what I believe. Like I said, hopefully I told Jackie I'm going to do my best to find who wrote the letter. She says if I do, I'll have a job with her as an investigator. So, so I'm looking for a new career with the DA's office. So my goal was to find out who wrote the letter. So.
Well, and it would be nice to know who wrote the letter so that we could get some closure to this. And I feel like, a lot of people say, well, GBI didn't do their job. Well, we have to trust the fact that they did what they had to do, and they followed all avenues to try to. I mean, you're holding a piece of paper
that was a thorough. I mean, I didn't know. I filed open requests before. Most times you get just a written report like this. They sent us everything. They sent us every interview, it's all.
It's very thorough.
It's going to take weeks to listen to all that stuff. It's entertaining, but to me, it's kind of unfair to all those people that have been interviewed to, what you're going to release, what you're not going to release, because I said they've been put in a bad position. I mean, they got blindsided with this just like everybody else. This anonymous letter, all of a sudden there's a GBI investigation underway. They're all being interviewed. They do state that everybody that was interviewed was very cooperative, and they didn't have anybody, balk and say, no, you're not talking to me. Nobody lawyered up or anything. So everybody did cooperate with the investigation. And again, they state no illegal activity was found, and they closed the file. But then again, I tell people all the time, it's kind of like a courtroom. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
That's right.
Just because they didn't find anything, Anyway, I just appreciate you coming in. Like I said, I just wanted to clarify because, like I said, the last time you were here, I asked the question. That's when we first found out about the investigation. I asked you point blank what you know about the investigation. You said you didn't know anything about it. So I just want to clarify. You just got caught off guard. And I mean, everybody said, "Oh, he lied." I don't think your intent was to lie. I think you just got caught blindsided by a question that you weren't expecting.
And I also said that I can't speak about an ongoing investigation.
Right. So
if you want to hear it, go back to Butch and Bob, whatever day it was that we did that.
Look, I think your heart's in the right place. I think you're trying to do what's best for the county. I think you're working hard. I said, one piece of advice, though, when you get these, like I said, I get them all the time. People drop off stuff in envelopes. There's no signature. There's no phone number. There's no nothing. They write all this stuff. And like I said, I just let everybody know out there, you want to get my attention, sign your name, let me know where it came from so I can respond and talk to the person. If not, to me, it goes in file 13. I don't give it much weight.
I agree. And I would rather know who it is instead of speculate who it is. We all have our mind the wheels go to rolling and want to guess who it was and everything, but I don't want to get anybody in trouble by saying who it was, because I do not know. If I knew, I would be going to them and saying, listen, you need to come forward, go talk to the GBI, explain to them, see if we have enough information to get anything done. They said there was no wrongdoing. They did not look at other things. They looked at what was on this paper. The allegations that you read earlier, and I think a lot of those things are, a lot of people say, oh, well, there's no wrongdoing in the county administrative office. Well, they looked at these items. The only way to get an accurate, to be able to decide if anything was wrongdoing as far as the money is to have a forensic audit. A forensic audit goes through in detail. Jackie Johnson did mention that. They are behind on those, and it would take a long time to get a forensic audit. I'm talking about years, because they're so backed up. And, yes, we're not the only county that has problems.
Well, I'm determined to find out who wrote the letter, because curious minds want to know. So that's my goal from this point forward, to find out who wrote this anonymous letter and who started the ball rolling to get all this going on. So
that's right.
That's my goal. But like I said,
if I get any more letters, I'm gonna bring them to you.
Right.
Bob.
I'm just giving you a piece of advice. I get these all the time. I say they show up and I open them up, and it just frustrates me that they write all this stuff, they make all these accusations, but they don't have the guts to put their name on it or a phone number I can call back and respond.
That's right.
Which I'd be glad to do. But I'm telling people, anybody out there that sends me those crazy letters with all this crazy stuff and all these accusations and don't sign your name to it, I'm telling you where it goes. It goes in the trash. I don't give it much weight. Don't lose any sleep over it. I just move forward.
Any more letters for me anonymously, send them to Jackie Johnson.
There you go.
Let her know.
Jackie, if you're listening, she said she's going to be listening. My goal was to find out who wrote the letter, and I'm going to hold you to it. She says, if I do, I get a job as an investigator in her office.
You'd be miserable, Bob. You couldn't handle that. I sure do appreciate y'all letting me come on, because I do like to come in and try to clarify things a little bit, make open transparency. That's what I want for the taxpayers.
People have called in. They're getting in late. They haven't read the letter, so I'm going to read the letter one more time so they can read the letter. Okay. Again, this letter came to Mr. McCreary's residence, again, in an envelope without a signature, without an address or anything. And it says as follows. It says, Mr. McCreary, there are some events that are and have occurred within the county administration I feel you should be made aware of. I know you choose to serve the county with the hopes of helping Wayne County get back to where it should be. After your public criticism of Ed Jeffers during last week's council meeting, there's been a lot of activity within the administration offices. Here are some key bullet points. 1, Ed Jeffers said, quote, he, McCreary, drew first blood, end quote. Something was said afterward, but it was not heard clearly. On Monday, June 10th, almost 3 bags of shredded documents were disposed of. Amanda Hanna, who's the county clerk, was seen removing and replacing documents from the SPLOST 2018-2019 binder. She was also seen redacting SPLOST documents with a black marker. I've decided to do my best to inform you of this anonymously in order to allow you the ability to protect yourself. I have no doubt Ed Jeffers would do anything he could to also implicate you in the wrongdoings that are evident within the county administration. I'm a person you know well and would consider myself a personal friend, but I feel I need to remain anonymous for various reasons. Now, when I read that, do you have any idea who your friend is?
I don't have many, and they say I'm going to lose some from being a commissioner, so won't be long and I'll be able to narrow it down quicker.
Then it says, recommendation. I strongly advise you to speak with law enforcement as soon as possible. I would recommend senior staff with the City of Jessup PD. I would avoid involving the Sheriff's Department on this. Ultimately, the GBI will need to be involved and lead the investigation. It's without a shadow of a doubt illegal use and transfer of funds have been occurring. Clearly, you also see this happening, and I commend you for it. I hope you have the foresight to seek the official help in rectifying this, as well as protecting yourself from false accusations. Again, that line there, I would avoid involving the Sheriff's Department on this, was a red flag to me that it didn't come from within the county office, because to me, if you're a county employee and you witness illegal activity, the logical place to go is to the county sheriff department, not the Jessup Police Department. So to me, that was a red flag that this is just a smokescreen, in my opinion. Also, just want to clarify, if I just read that letter, the part about Amanda Hanna, like I said, they sent us all these documents. I did listen to the interview they did with Amanda Hanna. It's about a 45-minute interview, and she denies knowing anything about the letter. She denies destroying any documents or redacting anything from any document in the county office. So just want to make that clear. That's in the news as well. But again, Kevin, I appreciate you coming in. You're welcome anytime. Like I said, our job is to try to get as much information out there as possible and let the people decide what's yay or nay. You know what I mean? But I appreciate you coming in. You're welcome anytime. Wish you the best of luck. Like I said, I think your heart's in a good place. I think when you ran for commissioner, your goal was to try to better the county. I think that's what you're trying to do, in my opinion. And we invite all the other commissioners here as well. Anytime they want to come. Ralph Hickok's dying to come. Like I said, he had a death in the family when he was scheduled last time, but I've talked to him the last couple of days. He wants to come. Did talk to Chairman Herschel Hires. He says he's getting ready to come as well. So, again, we'd love to have Ed Jeffords. We'd love to have anybody. Anybody wants to come on. But I tell you who I really like to have, the person that wrote this letter. So if you're out there listening,
you just want that job.
I want that person. That's my goal, is to find out who wrote this anonymous letter.
I appreciate you letting me come in.
No problem. I appreciate you coming in the last minute, like I said, and also talking about the millage rate. The millage rate, I think, is a huge story. It's one of the biggest stories to me in the last couple of years. They raised the millage 5 mills at one time, caused all that uproar. County commissioners having write-in candidates. It's, to me, it hurt a lot of people.
Well,
I tell people all the time, commissioners do this all the time. They think if they don't raise the millage rate, it's going to help them politically. But it's like a household. Everything goes up in cost. So if they were smart, they would raise the millage a little bit at a time each year, and that way people could understand that. But to hit everybody with a 5 mil increase at one time, to me, was just absurd. I'll stick to that statement. It's hurt a lot of people. I was hoping they would roll it back yesterday. The fact that they didn't roll back at all is, to me, disappointing. And like I said, the taxpayers are just being burdened with, I think somebody made a statement, why should the taxpayers pay for the commissioner's mistakes? And that's the question everybody keeps asking. But that's what they've done. They've thrown this tax burden on 5 mil increase on the taxpayers, asking us to bail them out of a situation we shouldn't be in the first place.
Each one of the commissioners brings something different to the table. We are all totally different, and that's what I was trying to get my point across, that I feel like that is my strong point, is numbers. I am a numbers man, and I love to, I can remember numbers like you wouldn't believe. My mama, she's amazed at how I can remember my grandmother's number, and she's been dead for 10 or so years, longer than that. But we need to utilize the commissioners that we have. I believe when we went up 5 mills, they got caught sleeping. They were not looking at the numbers close enough, whether it was administration or the commissioners, and I feel like it's our duty to we have an administrator, and that's fine, but I feel like we need to put our eyes on the numbers and justify those numbers ourselves, not only relying on the administrator to look through those numbers. Had they been looking at those numbers periodically throughout the years, they would have known to go up a mill earlier, and then you would not have had this big shocker of 5 mills dropped in their laps. Little old ladies or older ladies having to borrow money to pay their taxes so they don't lose their house. That's awful.
Well, knowing the landscape of Wayne County, I think people understand there's a lot of people on fixed incomes. And when you have a fixed income and you get hit with a 5 mil increase, it's a pretty big hit. And like I tell you, there's a lot of people out there hurting with this 5 mil increase, especially at one time. I said I begged every commissioner I talked to not to do it. I got one commissioner to not vote for it, and he's still on the board. So, I mean, the ones that voted for it got opposition, and like I said, one's no longer a commissioner. The write-in candidate won, which is an amazing story in itself. First time ever in history of Wayne County, the write-in candidate won an election. So, and you're historic in that regard. So
that's right.
I said, wish you the best. Welcome anytime. Again, if you other commissioners and Jefferson out there listening, as soon as you want to come on the show, we'd love to have you. Appreciate you coming in. Best of luck, and like I said, I'm going to still work on finding out who wrote the letter.
Well, I appreciate all the support I've been getting through the phone calls and things like that. It sure does help out, because I feel like that I'm not doing a good enough job as a commissioner, but I feel like I'm doing my homework, and I don't think there's anybody out there that can dispute that I try to do my homework, get all the evidence I can before I speak, so that I can speak knowledgeably for District 2 and all the voters that voted for me and all the voters of Wayne County, to try to stand up for what they want. And I think our ultimate goal is for all of us to do better, and to have a better county where we can live more comfortably and not have that burden of money over our head. And hopefully we can come to the conclusion and get the millage, drop it a mill or two next year, so that we don't need that money.
Okay. Again, we're well over the time allotted, but I do appreciate you coming in. That's going to do it for today's world famous Butch and Bob Show. Have a great day.
I've been telling you all about Woody Folsom Automotive since back in the late 90s, and